and welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name's Angela. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Rainbow Ange, and you can also find an Instagram account and a Facebook page for my yarn shop, which is Yarn and Yarns. We're based here in South Wales in the UK, just outside of Cardiff, in a little town called Penarth. Thanks for joining me today. We're in that kind of Christmassy limbo period. Christmas is done. We're almost at New Year, but it's that kind of time where if you're not at work, you have no idea what the day is, who you are, where you are, and what's going on. I've been put my teeth in. I have been enjoying a week off work. The shop's been closed, which is the first time off or extended time off that I've had since April, so that's been really nice. Getting to the stage now, it's Saturday, where I'm starting to think about the things that I need to do in preparation for going back and opening up on Tuesday. So I think tomorrow will probably be my last official day of holiday, and then on Monday I'll start doing some planning and prep so that I can go in with a plan on Tuesday. But today I thought I'd grab a little bit of time to chat to you about the projects that I am currently working on and a couple of things that I've finished. Some of these, if you watched my Vlogmas videos, you may have seen snippets and glimpses of these, but I know that not everyone has time to keep up with that sort of thing. So I've got a couple of finished objects to show you. There were a couple of, if you didn't watch Vlogmas, but you did watch my last video, then there'll be a couple of projects in there that have been gifted and gone off to new homes. So I don't have those to show, but I've got two finished objects that I'm going to show you. Technically three, but one of them will be coming up in the next section. So the two that I've got to show you, first off, this is pair number 2 of my Advent Scrappy Socks. So I had one of the Opal Advent calendars this year. It's the first time that I've actually had one of those, and I decided to use the mini skeins to make a couple of pairs of socks. So this is pair number 2. Sorry for the clicking of my sock blockers. So what I did was every day when I opened up my Advent, I used the minis as they came, and so for the leg I knit, so colour number 1 I knit the cuff and 10 rows, and then I knit 10 rows of each mini on the leg, used another mini to put in a fish lips kiss heel, and then on the foot I did 12 rows of each colour, and then for the last I did 7 rows and then decreased down for the toe to make up my normal sock recipe. So as you can see, these socks are the same but kind of different. It was really fun to see in the mini skeins how the colours varied in just sort of like the few short rows that came out. So some of them look a lot alike and some look really different. Like for instance, this one that's above the heel, there's a real nice flash of orange in that one, whereas in this one no orange, just the blues. So yeah, quite fun. You can definitely tell they're a pair, but they're not identical. So yeah, I do have another pair of these, but I wore them on Christmas Day, so they're in the wash, so I'm not going to show you those. But this was the pair that came from the second half of the minis. So that's finished object number 1, and finished object number 2 is James's jumper. Now this is the Derby jumper. Just going to grab the book there. The yarn that it's knit from is Rowan Hemp Tweed Chunky, which was one of their selects yarns, so one of their limited edition yarns from last winter. And the pattern that I chose to knit was from the booklet that comes. Rowan, with their select yarns, they often bring out a booklet of several patterns, and the booklet is free with any yarn purchase. So sorry if you can hear the crinkling. My cat Newt's in here and she's just trying to get into a cider carrier bag. Anyway, back to the derby. So this is the pattern that I chose to knit. It's called Derby, and this is my finished version. Difficult to show on camera, but I think you get the idea there. I knit that for James for Christmas. If you watch Vlogmas, you're probably bored of hearing me chat about that because it was a race against time at the end to get it finished. But I did manage it, and he seems to like it. He's worn it every day since. I stole it off of him to show you, so I'll have to give it back in a little bit. It was really nice knit. The yarn's really lovely. Sadly, because it's one of their selects, the limited editions, it's not as available everywhere anymore, but you might find it in some of your local stockists. They also have brought out a double knit version of this yarn, which I have another project to show you from the double knit version later. So if you like the look of the yarn, then you can get, as I say, if you can't get hold of the chunky, you should be able to get hold of the double knit. But yeah, this is probably slightly too big for James, but it does fit. The only thing that didn't really fit were the sleeves. They were way too long, although they came out to do the measurements as stated in the pattern for the size that I knit. I knit a 42-inch chest. The sleeves were just way too long, but they do have this massive long cuff. So James has been folding that back, and that seems to fit him quite well. I think my gauge was slightly off. As I say, row gauge seemed to be okay, but stitch gauge, this has come up a couple of inches bigger than the stated measurements in the pattern. So of course I didn't do a gauge swatch. Do as I say, not as I do. But I am planning on making the cardigan version for me. So if I just find so there's a cardigan. I've got my yarn all picked out and I should be casting on in the next few days. So yeah, I've learnt from this, and I won't be doing the size that I intended for myself. I'll probably do one, maybe two sizes smaller than I intended, to take into account my gauge variation. I don't think there's too much more to say about that. It was knit on 5.5mm needles, which is a US size 9, and 6mm needles, which is a US size 10. Really enjoy the texture pattern, which is actually showing up quite nicely in this light. I'm at home in my craft room, which if you've joined me before, you might remember me telling you that it's an attic conversion. There are 2 windows in the roof, so we get really nice light up here, even on a day like this, which is very grey and slightly rainy. So yeah, really fun texture. But you do have to concentrate on what row you're on, because it's knits and purls both sides. There's no rest rows, particularly on the sleeves where you're doing a lot of increases and decreases, so your patterning is changing. Not really one that I ever kind of got the pattern in my head, so I wouldn't say that was TV knitting for me, at least. I hear quite a lot of people saying, oh, I memorised the pattern, which I can do sometimes, but not on that particular project. So yeah, that's it for finished objects, and now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my works in progress, and in particular my crazy project, my 12 cast-ons of Christmas. So a couple of weeks ago I got this notion in my head that while I was off I was going to cast on all the things, and I've had, well, I will have had in total 9.5 days off of work. So I was thinking, oh, I'll cast on a project every day, so I rounded that up to 10. And then I was thinking, 10 days over Christmas. No, there are famously 12 days of Christmas, so I'm going to cast on 12 new projects, and they'll get finished when they get finished. I've got lots and lots of lovely yarn behind me that I haven't really been using. Since I took the shop over last April, I've been working on a lot of projects for the shop, for window displays. I've also had quite a lot of commissions. So my lovely yarn stash at home has been a bit neglected. So I thought it'd be fun to cast on a few projects just for me, things that I've had in mind for a little while and just haven't got around to doing. And as I say, there's no pressure to finish. I'm not going to stress about that. I just want these things on the needles. So I decided every day from Christmas Day I would cast on a project and just see how far I got that day, and then put it in a project bag, go on to the next one, see how far I got with that one, and then at the end I should have 12 lovely projects to pick up and work on as and when I am in the mood. So yeah, I thought I'd talk to you about the first. I'm not going to talk to you about all 12 because we will be here forever and a day, but I thought I would talk to you about the first 6 projects. This is day 6, so yeah, I'm just going to go through them in order. So the first one I cast on Christmas Day is a lovely project from this book, which is a Pom Pom publication, Pom Pom Press, and it's Interpretations Volume 1. There's 4 volumes of this publication, and they're patterns designed by Joji Locatelli and Vera Valimaki. And from this particular publication, I decided to cast on this shawl, which is on the back. It's called At Dawn, and it is designed by Joji. So there's a couple more pictures of it there. As you can see in the book, it's in striking yellow and brown colour combination, which I love. But I've gone for something completely different. So before Christmas, I treated myself to a lovely kit. Actually, I'll show you the bag. So the kit consisted of a beautiful project bag by Emma of Eldenwood Crafts. She's definitely my favourite project bag maker. I own a couple of hers now, and yeah, I'm sure at some point this year I'll be treating myself to another bag or two. And also as part of the kit there was a lovely skein of yarn dyed by Helen of Jan Tan Tetherer yarns. Just grab the label so you can see what that looks like. So Jan Tan Tetherer, and Helen is again my favourite hand dyer. I just love everything that she makes. And this yarn is on her Akka base, which is 85% superwash merino and 15% Donegal Neps, 400 metres in 100 grams. And this colour is called 'Tis the Season. And in my stash I had another skein of Helen's Akka yarn that I bought a little while ago in this colour, which is called Pavement, which is lovely grey and neutral colours. So I thought I'd pair those two together in the At Dawn shawl. So not the biggest contrast. I think there's enough, and the nice sort of neutral tones go well with the neutral tones in the 'Tis the Season. So I'm hoping this will, well, I know this will make a lovely shawl. The contrast may not be as super striking in the sort of mini stripes, but I know I'm going to love this. So I cast this on Christmas Day. I think it's on 3mm needles. I have to look for the pattern. I'm knitting them on my Knit Pro Symphony needles, and the size of the needle has long since worn off, as they do on those needles. So yeah, 3mm needles, and this is the progress that I made. So as you can see, I have knitted the first wedge. This shawl is knit in short rows, so I've knitted the first wedge of the 'Tis the Season colourway, and look at all those gorgeous colours coming through. It's such a beautiful, beautiful yarn. And I've also just put in, which I don't think you're really going to be able to see, the first contrast stripe. It's just 2 rows in the pavement colourway, and now I need to change back to the 'Tis the Season for the next wedge of that. But I ran out of time, but I think I made fairly good progress. Obviously we were fairly busy on Christmas Day, dinner to cook, and we had James's parents here, so I think I made pretty good progress on that for a busy day, and I'm really excited to be able to go back to that. This is definitely the hardest bit about this crazy 12 cast-ons project, is I'm enjoying each project so much every day that the next day when I go to cast on, I want to keep working on the one that I've already been working on. So yeah. So project number 2 is also a finished object. So I decided, as well as knitting a couple of things that have been sat in my stash, I wanted to knit a couple of samples for the shop as well while I had a bit of extra time. And at the end of last year we had this book come into the shop by Martin Story, Learn to Knit Cables. It's quite a skinny little publication, but there are several projects at the back, and it is a really good resource for anyone wanting to learn something new and dive into the fun that is cable knits. So from this book I decided to knit the cable wrist warmers, which I'll just show you a picture from the inside cover. So I cast these on Boxing Day, and we had a really lazy day, so I managed to get them cast off as well. I chose to knit mine in a slightly different colourway shown in the book. So this is the Rowan hemp tweed, so the double knit version of what I knitted James's jumper in for Christmas, and I chose to knit mine in this lovely, it's kind of like a grey brown colour, it's called pumice. Not sure how well that's, I think that's showing up fairly well. And yeah, such a really quick fun project that they flew on and off the needles in the same day. So I'm just slipping them on. So these are my version. Now again, I'm starting to discover that I think I knit fairly loosely compared to a lot of patterns gauge requirements, which surprises me because I thought I had you know, like a fairly average tension, but so these have actually turned out slightly too big really, but that wouldn't stop me from wearing them if I were to wear them because they're nice and cozy, but it does mean that I ran out of yarn. So these in the pattern book require 1 50-gram ball of this yarn, and I ran out with about, I think I'd got 2 rows of the ribbing done for the top of the mitt, and then I ran out of yarn, but luckily I had I've got 2 projects that I wanted to cast on with this, so I had brought extra home with me. So yeah, they were knit on 4mm needles for the cast on and the rib, which is a US size 6, and 4.5, which is a US size 7 for the main part of the cables. And again, this yarn is really, really lovely to work with, and this colour's beautiful. It's a really, really beautiful neutral. So yeah, these will go in the shop as a sample to hopefully help me sell a couple of these books, although we have already sold a few. As I say, it is a nice book, but after that I think I definitely see myself getting some wear out of those next winter. So that was day number 2, cast on and cast off. Bonus means there's one less project hanging around. Okay, so where did I go next? So day 3, I cast on a sock. Of course there was going to be some socks in this 12 cast-ons. I have actually got another pair planned for the second half of cast-ons, except, and I'm looking around the room in the hopes that it might pop out at me, I want to knit a pair of socks from the anniversary edition of Pom Pom, and the socks are called Festoon. They're by Rachel Coopy. They're a lovely highly patterned sock, and I've been itching to cast these on for ages, since the magazine came out, but I can't find my copy. I don't know what I've done with it. Oh dear. Part of me is hoping that there's a project bag somewhere that I haven't emptied from when I knit my Severe wrap that has got the magazine still in it, but I'm pretty sure I unpacked that bag, so who knows where it is. If you could see what I'm looking at right now, my craft room is a complete tip. I did try and tidy it up a little bit. I think one of my Vlogmas videos showed me making some inroads into that, but then this room became a bit of a dumping ground when we had visitors coming, so it's a complete tip again. So yeah, that my plans to cast on the Festoon socks may be on hold. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the Festoon socks. We're here to chat about what I did cast on. And I cast on with this lovely yarn by Miranda May. And Miranda is a local Cardiff indie dyer. And if you're watching this video when I publish it, she's got a fantastic sale of 25% off everything in her Etsy shop. And her yarn is gorgeous. So pop on over there and take advantage of that. The colourway that I purchased earlier on in the year, this is called Pumpkin Pie, and it's 85% merino, 15% nylon, 400 meters in 100 grams, and this is what the yarn looks like all wound up. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? Love it. And I have cast on a pair of socks from a pattern that was published again earlier on this year by another of my super talented friends, Lisa. I've spoken about Lisa in my videos before. Lisa is Use Your Yarn on Instagram and Ravelry, and she published a pattern earlier this year called Stand Up Socks, and I'm just going to put this sock on a blocker because I think that will show it to its best advantage. So I'm just chucking off one of my Advent socks. I'm going to quickly slip this on. So Lisa released this pattern, and some of the pattern proceeds go towards charity, so it's fantastic. And I had so much fun casting this sock on. As I say, the sock's called Stand Up, and I believe there's a charity in the US, I could be wrong, called Stand Up to Cancer, and I think that's where their logo has got arrows, I believe. I could be completely wrong. Lisa, if you're watching this and I've made a complete pig's ear of that explanation, can you comment below and put people straight? This is the progress that I've made so far. So it's a really, really fun pattern with these, if I flip it over, these kind of arrow details popping up every now and then. And for any of you, this is the right side of the sock, so obviously it's the reverse stockinette stitch with the arrow pattern sort of popping up. And if any of you are rolling your eyes thinking, oh, I hate purling, the sock is very cleverly knit inside out. So if I just show you, flip it round on the blocker, so you actually knit it with the wrong side facing, so that's what you see. So the majority of what you're doing are knit stitches, and then you're doing a few purls and twisted stitches to make the arrow texture. So yeah, really, really, really fun. I am just about at the point of turning the heel on that sock when I ran out of time on that day. So as I say, this is like where it comes. I'm looking at these projects again, I'm just like, oh, I want to knit a few rows on that, I want to knit a few rows on that. But that's brilliant because it means they're all things that I'm really enthusiastic about, and yeah, I'll have lots of fun projects to work on once this cast on madness is finished. and I'm knitting those on my ChiaoGoo needles, 2.25 at 80 centimetre cord. I always knit my socks one at a time. So yeah, that's project number 3. Project number 4 is actually, I'll just show you. Project number 3 is living in this fun raccoons project bag, and I think I got that from Gibby Russo's, although there's no... Oh no, I didn't. I got this from an Etsy seller called Amelia X Joy. So yeah, my socks are living in there. Project number 4 is again, is something that we had to come into the shop at the end of last year. It's some beautiful yarn from Erica Knight, and it is called British Blue 100. And when these patterns and yarn came in, oh yeah, there's some gorgeous things, but I've been itching to cast this on from the moment it arrived. It's called the Angelica top. It's beautiful cabled top, short sleeved, which I love. I've got a couple of tops that I wear like this with long sleeve underneath, and I'm going to show you the back, because the back is what I've cast on. On the back is this kind of spiralling rib and a bit of moss stitch at the top. I'm knitting this in the colourway as shown on the pattern, which is called Mrs. Dalloway. Let's see if I've got the label in this. No, I haven't got the label in the project bag. I'll tell you the colour number. But it's this beautiful sort of mustardy. I don't know if you'd call it mustard. It's maybe not quite as bright as mustard. Almost like hay. Autumnal sort of hay colour. Gorgeous. And this is the progress that I made on the day that I cast this on. So I finished the rib and I've started the sort of spirally pattern on the back. Now, one thing that I have encountered over the last couple of days with all these cast-ons is I've ended up knitting lots of rib over the last few days. Didn't really occur to me when I came up with this crazy plan, but I've got a couple of garments, obviously socks, a hat, so yeah, I've knit quite a lot of rib, but that's fine. I've enjoyed every stitch, I really have. So yeah, don't think there's much more to say about that. Again, I'm knitting these on my Knit Pro Symphony needles. I've got a lot of these because where I lived previously, the local craft shop wasn't really a yarn shop, and they only really sold Knit Pro Symphonies. So for these, you cast on a 3.75mm needle, which is a US size 5, and then the main body is knit in a 4mm needle, which is a US size 6. And I'm just going to show you my fun progress keeper slash yarn counter. That was part of my Christmas parcel from Erin, my friend Erin, who lives in Canada. She is Dufferin24 on Instagram and Ravelry, and she sent me several progress keepers, but this one is really fun. It's a row counter, and it has been decorated with some gorgeous, I think they're sort of like Fimo beads at either end. I don't think my camera will probably focus very well on that, but this is proving to be the perfect thing for this project. Now, quite often I just have scrappy bits of paper, sticky notes stuck to my patterns. I don't like scribbling on my actual patterns, but yeah, I quite often will have sticky notes with where I'm at. But now this back, I'm literally just knitting an 18 row pattern repeat for like 17 inches or something, so it's going to take me quite a while. So this is going to be perfect for helping me to keep track of exactly where I am without the need for bits of paper and pen all the time. So yeah, I'm really excited to get back to that one. This yarn is gorgeous. It's 100% Blueface Leicester, produced here in the UK, in Yorkshire I believe. I almost didn't go with this colour. There's a beautiful teal colour. I'm just going to show you the range of patterns on the back, and if I can show you this one down here, Constance, which is a shawl. yeah, I almost went with the teal. It's not showing up to its best on that sort of printed bit of cardboard, but I almost went with that colour. The thing that stopped me was that I recently put aside a sweater quantity of Aran weight yarn in a very similar colour to that for myself for a future date. So I decided to stick with the beautiful colour on the pattern, and that was one of the things that attracted me to the pattern in the first place, so I stuck with it. Now my sweater size bags are all in use at the moment, with the exception of one, but I'm going to use that for another one of my cast-ons later on this week. The Derby, in fact, is going to be living in there, so I'm just keeping this in a sort of tote bag for the time being. Bristol Wool Fair, which I went to a few years ago. I don't think it exists anymore. They had a couple of iterations of it, and then I think they struggled with venue, which is a bit sad. But yeah, that's where my Angelica top is living, and I might make myself a project bag for that down the line, but we'll see. Okay, so we're getting near the end now. This is day 5. So day 5, I am using this lovely project bag. I made it myself, fabric from Lisa, who designed the sock pattern. She sent me this last year after I admired a bag that she made from it. She sent me her leftover fabric. In this bag are all my leftover minis, whoops, from the Opal Advent calendar, and as you can see there's a ton in there, and I thought I need to do something to use these minis up. I do have a crochet granny stripe blanket from Sock Yarn Scraps on the Go, but I haven't worked on that for ages. But I do wear my sock head hat all the time. I've got one, and I thought it'd be really fun to maybe make a scrappy sock head hat, and I thought, oh, that will use up all the leftover minis from the Advent calendar. How wrong was I? Now, disclaimer, we had a really lazy day yesterday. This was yesterday's cast on, hence why I've knit all the rib and about 3/4 of an inch or so of the main body of the hat. But this so far has only used 2.5 of the leftovers. So if I show you, this was kind of like an average of the size of leftover, so there's loads of yarn, and I don't know why I thought, you know, a hat would use all of this up, but obviously not. I managed to do 4 inches of ribbing in just 2 of those leftovers, so I have pretty much decided that will probably make a sock head cowl as well. So I'm literally just dipping my hand in this bag when I need a new mini and adding in whatever comes out. Coincidentally, so I started off with this lovely one with sort of pinks and purples and blues, and then I went onto this one, reds and blues, and then this one is also reds and blues, so it's reasonably similar. It doesn't have the yellow streaks, but yeah, that was fairly coincidental. So I'm not sure now, because it's sort of, so this blue kind of echoes the blue that's in here, and then obviously the red in this one here is the same as the red in here, so I don't know whether to now be a bit more picky about what I put in next and try and choose something that also kind of echoes this, or whether just to stick to my original plan and go crazy scrappy. I'll probably decide when I get to the next mini. I'll see what comes out and see what I think. So yeah, this is going to be a really easy in front of the TV, on the train, when I've got classes in the shop project, because now I'm just knit until this hat measures either 7 or 9 inches, depending on how slouchy I want it to make. So yeah, this is going to be sort of equivalent to a vanilla sock, really. Oh, and I'll just show you the progress keeper on that. Is another one from my Christmas package from Erin, and it says dreaming of the sea. She sent me some beautiful stitch markers and progress keepers, all that, with some sort of meaning to me. So this pathetic thing is today's cast on. I picked this out of a bag of stuff that I bought from Wonderwall last year, or this year I should say. I'm already in 2018, even though we've got a couple of days left of 2017. Now, I had this notion that I was going to knit everything that I bought from Wonderwall up before I went to 2018's Wonderwall. Of course, that hasn't anywhere near happened, but I thought with this, with my 12 cast-ons of Christmas, I would start one project at least from that. So I picked out this gorgeous natural Wensleydale yarn. So it's pure Wensleydale, which is my favourite breed-specific yarn. 4-ply from Home Farm Wensleydales. It's just called Shade Natural. And when I purchased that yarn, it came with a pattern for a scarf. And I cast this on this morning and did the first couple of rows, and then I kind of put it down and wandered off and did a few other things. And I haven't felt the drive to work on this as I have with every other cast on that I've done so far on in my 12 cast on of Christmas craziness. So as beautiful as the yarn is, I think it's telling me that I just don't really want to work on this one at the moment. So obviously I'm going to leave it cast on. Obviously I've wound that up, but I've decided to start something else today. Which I know is a bit of a shame, but all of the other projects that I've worked on, I've just wanted to sit and knit on them all day, and that just hasn't happened. So instead, I'm going to go with what my heart is telling me, and I've wound up these gorgeous skeins, which I've been dying to get to. These were on my plan for the 12 cast-ons of Christmas anyway. Originally, when I decided that the Wensleydale wasn't singing to me, I was going to cast on the festoon socks, but then I discovered I couldn't find the book. So instead, I went with these gorgeous skeins of yarn. Now these, James bought me back from a business trip that he went to in Seattle, and he bought by a lovely shop called Serial Knitters, and he bought me back these 2 skeins of yarn. So this gorgeousness is from Dye House Yarns, which is Serial Knitters' own yarn. So if I can show you there. Dye House Yarns by Serial Knitters. And this is in a very special colourway called Eclipse. And it was dyed for the solar eclipse that happened earlier on in the US this year. And then he also brought me back this lovely skein, which is from the Periwinkle Sheep in the Clementine colourway. And I have decided that I'm going to knit an amulet shawl by Curious Handmade. So I've got the pattern all printed out and ready to go. I have got some needles, so I'm going to cast this on right now. Well, as soon as I finish chatting to you, which is pretty much going to be soon, because I have got to the end of the first half of my 12 cast-ons of Christmas. I'm not going to talk through the rest of the projects because I've already been sat here chatting for about 40 minutes, so I think that's quite enough for today. But next week, once I've cast on the other 6, I will definitely do a very similar video and talk you through what I have put on the needles over the next 6 days. So I think all that remains for me to do today is to say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, then please do subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I shall see you again soon. In the meantime, lots and lots of woolly hugs to you all.